All right. Hey, Alive Youth Group. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining me. We're kind of coming to the end of what I'm going to say, just this coronavirus series that we've been in. Next week, I'm going to start a book study. We're going to cover just really quickly one of the small books in the New Testament. And part of that's just because we're kind of starting to see things reopen here in our county and across the state and across the country too. And so even though things are going to continue to be in front of us and not feel normal again, I want to, even though our devotions on Wednesday nights haven't been like just totally centered around the coronavirus or anything like that, but I do want to get back into a little bit of a book study since we haven't been able to do that all spring. But regardless, here in this last kind of session in this series, if you want to call it that, I want to encourage and challenge you to, one, continue to keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. Sometimes while we're in the dark valley, it's easy for us to cling to our good shepherd and rely on him because we know we need him in those moments. And when we're fearful and afraid and not sure what's happening or just really wrestling and struggling with things, we want to run to our shepherd, our mighty fortress, and find refuge in him. But when things start to get back to normal, I think it's only normal for us to kind of get back into our old routines and rhythms. And while some of that's good and okay, some of it's not, because we can't go back to not relying on God if we weren't doing that prior to COVID-19. So I want to encourage you to keep your eyes fixed on Jesus and continue to model your life after him. I also want to challenge you just to think about what characterizes a Christian. Not that we don't go through difficult times, but even in the midst of the storm, we're able to have joy. And my challenge to you here in this last little session is to invite others into that joy, because there's no doubt that many of you have friends who do not know what it means to have a refuge or a rock of faith in a difficult time. And one of my favorite songs recently, and you guys know me, I love my hip hop. So there's a song by Bizzle, Bizzle. Go check it out. Bizzle is the name of the artist, and the song's name is Primo. So, I mean, the beat is really good, and I think you're going to enjoy that. It's got a little Latin flair to it, which I always love. But the lyrics are really, really good too. And in the chorus, they are, I guess you would say, reminding us to invite others. And I think the way they phrase it is, if you know someone who needs Jesus, invite them in, because this is our family. And I consider you guys family in a lot of ways. I mean, you're going to be glad you don't share a bathroom with me, or you have to see me when I wake up or when I'm cranky. But we experience those close-knit relationships as a youth group when we're together and even when we're apart. And so those are really good relationships to have, and I don't know where I would be without them. I thank the Lord for them and for you in that. And so because I know that you know people who don't have that, I want to encourage you and challenge you, like the song Primo does, to invite them in to see what we're like. And you know as well as I do that we don't have everything figured out. We don't have all the right answers. But at the end of the day, we do have a good, loving God who cares for us, and there's a sense of security in that. And I'm going to read for you a verse out of Romans chapter 10, starting in verse 14, just a few verses here. Paul says this: "How then will they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how are they to believe in him whom they have never heard? And how are they to hear without someone preaching? And how are they to preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the good news. But they have not all obeyed the gospel. For Isaiah says, Lord, who has believed what he has heard from us? So, faith comes from hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ. All right, so Paul references a verse back in Isaiah chapter 52, Isaiah 52, verse 7. And he quotes it there. He says, "How beautiful are the feet of those who preach the good news." Now, if you've been around me at the pond, you've seen my feet, and you know they are not pretty, okay? I let Anna paint my big toenail about 3 months ago, and it's still there, embarrassingly enough. But it didn't help my feet, okay? So it doesn't matter what cosmetic things we do to our feet, they're not going to change, some things just can't change. It doesn't matter how long or gangly my toes get, or I guess it doesn't matter how much nail polish you put on my toes, it's not going to change how beautiful they are. But the Lord does consider your feet beautiful and good if they are preaching the good news here, according to Paul. And Paul kind of riffs a little bit off of Isaiah. So if you go back to that verse in Isaiah, you'll actually see, "Beautiful are the feet of those who bring the good news," not preach, but bring the good news. And so if you know the Old Testament, you'll know that sometimes when the troops were off in battle for whatever reason, there would oftentimes be a messenger that would come back to the city, and there was someone in a watchtower, and when they saw that person, okay, running back towards the city, they knew that there was good news coming. And so those feet of the messenger bringing good news were considered beautiful feet, because the news was news of victory. Now we have that same news, not of a battle won, okay, no world wars or anything like that, but the battle that's been won, and the good news that we have to share, to invite others in, is the good news of Jesus Christ, because he has been victorious over sin, Satan, and death, and it's because of that victory that we can rest assured through difficult seasons. And so invite your family in. Now, you do not have to be a preacher to do that. Even though Paul says, "How beautiful are the feet of those who preach the good news," another way to word that would be to proclaim, or let it be known, or to shout it from the rooftops. And so, you can do that on the streets in New York City and have beautiful feet there, but right here and right now, I think probably the most likely place for you to do that is with your friends, with the people who you rub shoulders with, and all you have to do is just invite them into this family that we enjoy. And it's a good place, it's a safe place, and we know that. Again, not because we've got all the right answers or because we're perfect by any stretch, but because it's a good, safe place. And we've got a God, again, going back to Romans, a God who's going to work out all things for our good. Okay? All right. I love you guys. I miss you. And I'm anxious to see you soon. I'll keep you posted on what's happening as far as when we're going to be able to get back together in person. And I'm going to be able to knock some of you around playing Korean Warfare and that kind of thing. But until then, continue to keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. Listen to that song Primo by Bizzle and invite others in so they can see what we're like. And I think when you do that, they'll see an authentic, genuine, group of people who are loving and following the Lord as best we can by his grace. Okay? All right. I love you guys. Again, see you.